Hello, world historians. Next week's module is looking at the dual traditions of Christianity and Islam, and we'll also be talking about the Crusades. So today I thought it would be useful to have a little bit of a focus on one of the youngest of the major world religions, still one of the fastest growing, Islam, of course. So this is a religion which today has something in the region of 1.3 to 1.5 billion inhabitants and rising, and of course these are estimated figures. And this map, although it's somewhat limited in that it suggests that Muslims only live in those parts of the world which is shown in the two shades of green, I think gives you a rough indication as to the geographic spread of Islam. But it's also worth pointing out that Islam, of course, is a world diaspora, that you will find Muslims in every country of the world, with the possible exception of the Vatican City. So the two divisions that you see here, Sunni and Shia, these go back to the very early period of Islam, really shortly after the death of the founder of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad. And we will talk more about the significance, or we'll explore more about the significance of this Sunni-Shia divide in Islam. But it's worth pointing out that all Muslims share a common creed and a common belief system, but this division between Sunni and Shia goes back over 1,000 years. It's political rather than theological. In other words, it's to do with the originally the political state of Islam, as opposed to the theology and the worship issues. And it really is quite central to understanding later on how Islam develops politically and historically. So what we're looking at here just shows a kind of rough view of the 1.3 billion Muslims of the world. Doesn't of course show the New World, but it shows the Middle East, Central Asia, India, the Southeast Asian regions, where in Indonesia, for example, there are a large majority Muslim population, and of course parts of Africa. And the Shia are also, we should also note, a small minority of the total population. Something like 85 to 90% of the Muslim world is actually Sunni. So it's worth thinking later on about why this difference really matters. But these differences are laid aside on an annual basis when Muslims from all over the world, Sunni and Shia, converge on the modern-day nation of Saudi Arabia, the holy city of Mecca. And this is the Hajj, H-A-J-J. This is the annual pilgrimage of Muslims worldwide, following in the footsteps of the founder Muhammad. And this is the largest single annual religious gathering anywhere on earth. Last year, for example, the Hajj attracted over 3 million Muslims from across the world. And this is considered to be one of the 5 pillars, or the 5 central belief structures of Islam. The other 4 being confession of faith, prayer, fasting during the holy month of Ramadan, and alms or charitable giving. But the Hajj is again a way in which Islam represents both an extreme world diaspora, what's sometimes referred to as the Dar al-Islam, or the House of Islam. Islam, of course, is not defined by race or even language or ethnicity, but is truly a universal religion, attracting adherents from all over the world. And yet every year these Muslims from all over the globe converge on a single spot. So you have on the one hand this sort of scattering of the global universal religion, but at the same time this central focus of where this all began, the holy city of Mecca. The origins of the religion are very important to the faithful. And at the center of the main concourse in the holy city of Mecca, you see the real sort of epicenter of this pilgrimage is the veneration of the shrine known to Muslims as the Kaaba, an Arabic word that means cube. And nobody really quite knows what lies at the heart of this structure. Certainly scientists have not been allowed to sort of test the structure of this edifice. But it's believed that within the center of the shrine at the Kaaba is what, at least in the sort of materialistic explanation, is believed to have been a kind of ancient meteorite that fell from space, and that has had a religious significance to the Arab people before this became a site of veneration for Muslims. So this is actually a pre-Islamic shrine, which then became, because of its associations with the founding prophet Muhammad and the Arab tradition, became the epicenter of this Muslim prayer ritual. So when we talk about early Arabian religion, what we're talking about here is the religion of the Arabian Peninsula before the time of Muhammad, or more specifically before the emergence of Islam. And again, our sources on this religious worldview are somewhat limited, not least because the early Arab society, the society in fact of Muhammad himself, was primarily an oral society. Most people were illiterate, and therefore we have very little in the way of written history, written record. But we do, of course, have sort of these sites like the one that we're looking at right now, standing stones imbued with religious significance, which until the 20th century was still being venerated by local Bedouin tribespeople. And nobody really, again, quite knows the subtleties of this religion, but it's clear that, like other polytheistic religions, the early Arabian religion associated specific sites, and in particular standing stones, with the spiritual order of things. We know that, again, before Islam, the Arabs worshipped many gods, including Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. Now, these names might not be familiar to you, but if I told you that they were remembered as the daughters of Allah, you may suddenly see the association. So Allah, the Arab god, the monotheistic god, the equivalent, if you like, of Jehovah, had a pre-existence, a prehistory in this early Arab religion, but was one of many gods. So this makes it all the more radical when Muhammad goes into the desert and receives his revelation through the Archangel Gabriel from God, that says that you shall have no other God but me. We see here an image of Muhammad, which is taken from a medieval Persian illustration. And this is somewhat unusual. This is actually part of the Shia Muslim tradition. Certainly many Sunni Muslims would look down upon this depiction of the Prophet Muhammad because within Islam generally there is a strict taboo, cultural prohibition on showing in artistic form, in some cases, the human form, but certainly the Prophet Muhammad himself. And the origins of this prohibition go to the fact that Muslims had very strong antithesis to the worship of idols, and this is a reflection of their rejection of their polytheistic background. So they didn't want to associate the worship of Muhammad, who was not actually a god but a prophet, with this sort of idea of religious worship. So for that reason, Muhammad was never depicted in portraiture in the Islamic tradition, except very rarely in images like this from the Shia tradition, which were somewhat more liberal in their interpretation of this tradition. So here he's shown, and there are a couple of things that are unusual about this illustration, one of which is that he appears to be on fire, but this is, of course, the fire of divine inspiration, like the flames of Pentecost. And secondly, that he's wearing the hijab, or the facial veil. His face is covered. And this is actually, again, something that we tend to associate more culturally with the veiling of women. But in this case, it's shown to distract the viewer's attention from the face of Muhammad, and therefore this is not seen as an idol, but a historical representation. And it shows him next to the Kaaba as it was depicted at that time. And this again is interesting because it shows that Muhammad's family, the Qurayshi clan of the Arabian Peninsula, were actually the hereditary custodians of this shrine. They had this sort of tradition that was passed down through the family of being associated with this site of worship. So even before Muhammad's revelations in the desert, he was still seen as a holy man, someone with this connection to the holy shrine of the Arab people. Now, Muhammad goes into the desert, and he's a religious seeker. In many ways, there are very strong parallels with the life of Christ, this idea of meditation in the wilderness. And around the age of 40, around 610 of the Common Era, Muhammad, as seen in this similar Persian illustration, received a revelation from the Archangel Gabriel, which is recorded in the Quran, and it describes it thus: proclaim in the name of thy Lord and Cherisher, who created man out of a clot of congealed blood. Proclaim, and thy Lord is most bountiful. He who taught the use of the pen taught man that which he knew not. And this is the beginning of Islam. Muhammad returns to his hometown of Mecca after his travels in the wilderness, after his revelation, and he reveals this description of this powerful religious experience that he claimed to have had in the desert, and this revelation that he had that there was only one God and that he was the messenger. And so this then becomes the sort of the central tenet, if you like, of the Muslim religion, the one God against the many gods of the Arabian tradition. But what's interesting about this early revelation as well is he who taught the use of the pen taught man that which he knew not. The Quran, the holy book, the scripture of Islam, distinguishes man and distinguishes humankind for its superiority in the ability to read, the ability to learn and to reason. And therefore, you have the irony that even though Muhammad himself could not read or write, that he came from an oral culture, that this was seen as as a kind of backwards sort of tribal society. One of the earliest sort of imperatives of Islam was to adopt and to promote religion and scripture through the written word, and to emphasize the reasoning powers of the human mind. So this is really quite a radical departure from the sort of oral tradition of Islamic society, and it's built into this early revelation in the desert. So again, Muhammad is a very interesting figure, someone who had this association with the religion of the Arabian Peninsula, but then became a religious prophet through direct revelation from God. And the Quran, the central text, is essentially a kind of transcription of the revelations of Muhammad. And in the years that follow, both this early revelation and shortly after Muhammad's death, in the period of 100 years, you see the explosion of Islam as what had begun as a kind of tribal following, a kind of cult in the Arabian Peninsula, surrounded by the charisma of one man. Muhammad, after his death, really explodes out of Saudi Arabia, and you can see this is a map that illustrates within the course of a century the expansion of what was originally a political state, an empire, the empire of Islam, which becomes, under the successors, religious and spiritual and political, of Muhammad, a kind of what was referred to as the caliphate, but one of the major world empires of history. And so this is something that we'll come to look at more on Module 5. But it's worth thinking about how was Islam able to expand so rapidly, both politically, but also spiritually. And here we're talking about two sides of a coin, the spiritual and religious. So we'll talk more about that next week in Module 5. Thanks very much.